Hello, hello, hello everyone. It is Teresa from Teresa's Silhouette Spot for all things art, where I love encouraging joy through art and teaching creatives and crafters how to paint for fun and profit. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are painting this really cool dragonfly painting. So as I was painting this and thinking about doing it and whatever, I was like, dragonflies are like the only insect, I believe, that are kind of pretty. So, I mean, their wings are just gorgeous and all different colors. Ours are going to be purple today, but you can do yours any color you want. I always encourage my painters to use the colors they like or they have on hand. But this is a good project because it only uses a few colors, black and white, and then we're going to be using a burgundy, a very bright purple, and my favorite color, patina. But again, you can use any colors that you like, any colors that maybe go with your home, your favorite colors, the colors you have, whatever it is. So we're going to get started. Let me put this here. Okay, I might have to reference it. I'm going to turn my camera around and we will get started. I'm going to put out some white and some of my patina blue. I am painting on a 9x12 canvas. You can paint on any surface you want. You want to do it bigger, you want to do it smaller. That one I painted in a art journal, like a Bristol board. I can't tell you the kind it is anymore because I even painted the cover of it. And so now I don't remember, but it's media paper. It's multi-surface paper. It's not watercolor painter. It's canvas painter. It's a little more heavy bodied than that. But anyway, let's get going. So I have a flat brush, I have a liner brush, and I have a round brush. I have a this filbert brush. I may use that, or I may just use a smaller flat brush. Okay, let me get some paper towels to get started with. If you are using a new brush, you always want to wash your brush out in water first if it's a new brush, because it comes with like a chemical in it or sizing or something, and you want to get that out. You want to get your brush nice and clean and ready to go. Sometimes when they have those chemicals in it and they come from the factory, moving my time lapse, you need to get that washed out for your painting, for your brushes to work right. So anyway, let's get started. I have out my white and my blue, and I'm just going to load my brush up with the white to begin with. When I load my brush, I like to put a little bit of pressure on it. I go to the side of the pile. I don't go right in the middle of the puddle. And I put a little pressure. You want the fibers to flare out, and you want your bristles to get nice and loaded with paint. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And I'm just going to wet the top of my board, pulling down with the white paint. You probably can't see it. I can. This does not have to be even Steven or anything, because I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to start in by, again, picking up our white paint. Let me get out of the way. Picking up our white paint, and then just picking up a corner, just a tad, just a corner of the blue, and we're going to start mixing in that blue. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the white. I'm going to pick up a corner of the blue, and we're going to start mixing in the blue. Okay, when you mix in the blue, you want to start over here in like a fresh spot, but then you always want to move back for blending. So we to the left and to the right. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a little bit more, and I'm going to work my way out, and then I'm going to work my way back. Okay, back to my white, and we're just going to keep doing that and working our way. But as we work our way down, we want to get more blue. So I'm still going to continue to pick up white, but I'm going to pick up a little bit more blue now. Let me move these out of the way. And I'm going to make it a little bit thicker here. So I still have white on my brush, but you can probably see the difference now where it's getting a little bit more blue. And I always go to the side of my pile because I might need my white later to blend with some other colors. Maybe I want to make something a little lighter. And so I don't want to dirty up my whole white pile. Yes, I could put out more, but if I don't need to, I won't. So this way I'm always taking from the edge and I'm not contaminating my whole pile of white paint. Now I know it's a little hard for you to see because of the glare with the white, but now I'm adding a lot more blue. Now I'm basically adding blue and just using the white that's in my brush because I want the bottom of my painting to be really dark blue. This painting is probably, if we had to think about it, in thirds, with the top third being very, very light, the middle third being slightly darker, and then the bottom third being almost all blue, except that you're using a dirty brush to do it. And again, I'll go to the fresh spot, but then I'll work my way back and go over whatever I've just painted. And don't worry about if you have too much blue or too much white. You can always add and darken it up or lighten it up however you want. Okay, so I have my base in here now and I'm pretty happy with that. I might just add a little bit more because I want my heights to be different. I was feeling like my dark blue was all one height, so I just went in and I brought a little bit of those streaks up there. So while you're doing this too, you can go in and again with the blue and the white and paint your edges. Sometimes I leave my edges, sometimes I paint them the same color as the front. Sometimes I'll do like a really whimsy design on the sides. Sometimes I'll paint them a solid color that is just maybe one color from the front. So it depends. It really depends on my mood, my art, and sometimes it really depends on how much paint I have left over. Because if I have a lot of paint left over, sometimes I'll add a whimsy edge. Oh, I don't have anything right here. I thought I did. To it. And up top, I'm just going to do mostly white because we were mostly white up here. We got a little blue there, so I want to just mix that in with my white. Okay, so we're done with this brush for now. I'm going to put it in water, and I'm going to get my round brush. I'm going to put out some black. If you want to try this at first on a piece of scrap paper, copy paper, piece of cardboard, or whatever it is, before you go to your surface, that's fine. You can just hit pause and then come back after you get the stroke down. But I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So I have a little bit of black and I have my round brush. I'm going to use a round brush or a liner brush. We want to twirl it. Again, we want to put some pressure on it because we want to get the bristles full of paint and the brush full of paint. But we're going to twirl it. We want our liner brush to have a little bit of a point on it. Okay? And we're going to go in. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stems, twigs, whatever you want to say across the bottom. And we're just going to go in and we're going to make them all different heights. You want them fairly thin. And I'm just pulling up. Okay, ran out a little bit of paint there, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to go over my line. It's nice on the top to make it a little bit more narrow than it was on the bottom. And we're just going to, these are not straight. We're not using a ruler. They can bend a little bit. They can be a little bit thicker, thinner in spots. If you run out of paint, just pick up a little bit more and fill it in. They can be crooked. These are just the little branches that are going to hold our buds. They don't have to be in the same exact place as they were in the sample or in your reference photo, but they can be if that helps you. Sometimes if I feel like it's not dark enough, I'll wait for it to dry and then I'll come back with some fresh black. So if you see, I dripped a little black there on my I'm not going to worry about that right now because when I go to do my buds, I'll just make sure I put a bud over that one. Now I have 6. So right now, our painting does not look very attractive, right? That's okay. Our paintings go through stages. We do things in steps for a reason. And once you start adding all the details, it really pulls everything together and your painting starts to come to life. Now we're going to make a few Ys off of our branches. We're going to have them different heights, different lengths. And again, you can pause this video. You can do a little practicing, and then you could come back. Okay? So I'm just going to go in. I want to make this one a little bit darker. If you wanted to wait until your background was dry, that's totally okay. You can put me on pause, wait for your background to dry, and then come back to finish up. Or I hit it with a blow dryer or a heat gun. I am going to grab my heat gun because I want my background now to be totally dry for when I start adding in my flower buds. So let me just get it here. You can fast forward through this part or just talk amongst yourselves. I got this heat gun because it was supposed to be much more quiet than a hairdryer, and it really isn't that much more quiet. But it works. It gets the job done. It's all good. Okay, I think that's good enough for now. I washed my round brush. I'm going to give it a squeeze. I think I'm going to actually add one more little one in here for some height. I'll wash it again. Okay. Now I'm going to put out some of my, what's this called? Deep burgundy? Yes, deep burgundy. You can use a dark red. You can use more of a magenta. It's totally up to you. I'm going to put it next to my white because we're going to be using both our burgundy and our white. And I'm going to go to my white now on this side of my puddle, not that side because that's the part that I was using for the blue. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do, again, we're going to load our brush, put a little bit of pressure. You want the bristles to flare out as you load it with paint, but you also want to give it a twirl before you pick it up so you have a nice point. And again, you can practice this on some scrap paper or copy paper or some cardboard or whatever, and then when you feel comfortable, come back and hit play and we'll be ready to go. Now these are just a series of little pushes. So I push down with the point and pull up. Now I'm going to start picking up some white. Push down, and as you come closer to the stem, you want to pull up. Sometimes I pick up white, sometimes I don't. Your buds can line up right next to each other, or they can stagger. It's totally up to you. Okay? I'll show you that again. So let me pick this up. I'm going to let that one dry. I'm going to work on this one. Pick this up a little bit more. So I'm just going to put my brush down. I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure. I'm going to push down, and then I'm going to pull up. And see, your brush, if you're using a round brush and a decent round brush, it should spring up, and you will just have that little bud shape. Oh, I picked up some black there. I'm just going to wash off my brush. I'm not going to actually wash it. I'm just going to put it in the paper towel, and I'm going to go back to some fresh white. You just want to give it a little bit of pressure, and then as you pull up, it springs back, and now you have it skinny and then wide and skinny again where it comes into the stem. And you can add as much white or as little bit of white as you want. You can have your buds be really, really dark, or you can have them be fairly white and pink. And I'm just going to work my way down each one of these stems. Again, like I said, you can have them on this one. My buds are sort of, when I pick up too much black, I want to wipe it off. I'm going to come back and fix the ones that I think are too dark. I'll go back over them. It's easy. These buds are pretty much lining up. The left matches the right. But you don't have to do that. You can have them staggered. I always like to put one at the top and then get started. But you can have them staggered. You don't have to make them, I mean, we want them full, but they don't have to exactly line up left, right, left, right. It's totally up to you. I do some way and some another way. And now if you notice, if some of your, branches are a little thick, once you start putting the buds in, they don't look as thick anymore. And every time I go back, when I want it lighter, I'm just going to pick up some white. So now I'm to this black dot I didn't want. So there you go. I just covered right over it with one of the buds. I'm skipping around because I want these to dry before I come in and put these on top. So instead of working on all the branches over here, I'm going to let some of them dry first and then come back. And I'm picking up the burgundy and the white, and I'm just alternating sides. Now I'm getting a little pink, so I'm going to wipe off my brush. You don't have to go into the water, and I'm going to start all over with the burgundy. Once I start getting not enough variation between my burgundy and my white, I like to go back in and start all over with loading my brush. I may have to, even then at some point, wash it, but right now I'm good. And I'm just pushing down, pulling towards the stem, and then pulling up. Let me get some white. And these would look pretty, any color. If you wanted to do them in purples, and then have your big, bright purple dragonfly up top, that would work. If you want to do one whole side on the left and then come back up and do one whole side on the right, you can do that too. Totally up to you. So I'm going to keep working the way I'm working. I'll do this little guy out here. He's kind of coming in from the side. And I feel like he's up here right in the light. So I'm making these really bright. And do this little guy off to the side. And this is why we wanted some of them to dry, because now we're coming in here and we're doing some overlapping. I want that to dry now. So now I'm going back to here. And I'm doing some overlapping. Let me get some white with these little branches that went out to the side. And that's probably why we hop around. You want part of your art to dry, and then you'll get back to it. If you get to the point, I think my brush is getting a little bit globby now, I'm just going to wipe it off on my paper towel. I'm going to start back again in my burgundy. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white. And where was I? I was here. And then I'm going to go back to the branch that I was on when I decided to clean my brush. These would look pretty for like a filler flower in the background if you were doing some kind of a basket or a vase, a container, a flower container. These are getting a little dark. I wanted to add a little bit more white to them. Maybe if you did them as for a container or different arrangement, you could do the twigs brown or a deep green. I like the contrast on this design with them being black against the patina background. Picked up some black again. Okay, so I'm going to go in here, I'm going to lighten up some of the ones where I picked up a little bit of black before. And since they're dry, I can just go right over them with my brush and brighten them right up and get rid of the black. Okay. I'm going to go to this one. And again, since this one's on the same side, I'm going to keep this one pretty bright as well. If you can see, I'm kind of rolling the brush between my thumb and my middle finger. And this way I get to use the paint on every side of it before I have to go back and pick up more paint. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna give my brush a little wash. Now I'm just gonna pick up a little bit. You can use your liner brush for this, or you can still use your round brush. I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of white on the tips. And where I have a lot of stem, I'm just going to add in a little bit of highlight. In between, up here, not too many places, but if you have an area where you think it's a little just too much fat stem, just gonna go in there and brighten it up a little bit with some white. Okay? So now I'm going to flip it upside down because that part is wet. I'm gonna get the template from our dragonflies. I'm gonna see where they fit. If they don't fit, I might have to cut them apart, which I think I'm going to do. I'm just notching it out a little bit. So I want to put it right in there with the flowers, okay? So I'm going to get my, here it is, my paper, my graphite paper. I'm going to slip it under. and I'm going to trace on my dragonfly. Now my graphite paper doesn't fit the whole thing, but I'll be able to see where the wings go and how to finish them off. Again, you can hit pause, you can wait for yours to dry, you can force it to dry, whatever you want to do, and then you can come back. Okay, so I put in most of my dragonfly. I'm going to grab a pencil and I'm just going to finish here, here, and that's it. That's for that one. I'm going to get the smaller one up here. I think that's good. I slip my paper back underneath. And again, I'm going to trace this guy. And this little body. Okay, oh, got some paint on there. It's okay, I'll be able to fix that. I have to wait for it to dry though before I start messing with it, so I'm gonna wait. Okay, so I'm gonna get out a little bit of my purple. And you can either use a smaller flat brush for this, you can use the round brush that you've still been using, or you can use a filbert brush. Totally up to you. I'm going to use the round brush that I've been using. I think I'm going to turn it upside down again so I'm not stretching across the dirty canvas. Okay. I'm going to load my brush with the purple, and I'm going to come in a clean spot. I'm going to pick up some white, and I'm going to start brushing in my wings. This is Purple Pizzazz, I think, from DecoArt. It tends to be a little translucent, which is okay for dragonflies, but I want my wings to really pop on this project. So that's why the first coat I picked up a little bit of white, because I'm going to go over these wings again with some fresh purple, and putting the white in to begin with helps it not be so translucent. So I'm picking up some purple, I'm picking up a little bit of white, and I'm just using these little tiny strokes with my round brush and filling in my wings. Some more purple, a little bit more white. Again, if you need to put out some fresh white because you got red and blue in yours, that's totally okay. And then by the time I finish all mine, I can come back here now with some fresh purple and pull it in. And I'm still not getting a solid purple, but I'm getting a much darker, more opaque look to my purple. And that's the look I'm going for. They didn't totally dry, but I have a nice base coat in there. And now I can come back in here with some nice, bright, fresh purple. Be careful if you don't like the shape of your wings. The more you fix it, the bigger they'll get. And then you'll have these giant mutant dragonflies that you will not be happy with. Sometimes you just have to be like, okay, that's it. Or you may have to then repaint the whole background or whatever, and you don't want to do that. So before you start fixing it, and then you're like, oh, this needs to be bigger. Oh, this needs to be bigger. This needs to be bigger. And before you know it, you were working on your wings, and now all your wings are giant. And I'm just using these little tiny I'm going to come around here and swoop. But I'm just using these little tiny strokes because you don't want your wings to look totally solid. They're dragonfly wings. Again, I got some paint build up. I'm going to wipe it off on some paper towel and go back into some fresh purple. You don't want them to be like a solid one color. You want all these different variations in your purple. That's why we did the first coat with white and the purple mixed, and now we're just going back with some fresh purple. Okay, I want to let that dry. I'm going to get a fresh paper towel. I'm going to dip it in my water. First, I'm going to roll it and make it nice and stiff and hard here, like with that point. I'm going to dip it in some water, not too much. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to see if I can get this off. If I can't get it off, yeah, it's coming off. It's okay. It's all good. If we let it to be too wet, we would have just ended up smearing all of this burgundy paint all over our white and had a big pink blob. So that's why I waited. And the same thing here. Get off the bulk of it. I'm going to go back to my big flat brush that I had before. I'm going to get some fresh white on my brush, and I'm just going to brush over that, pick up a little bit of the blue, and brush over this. You might have to do it a couple of times because sometimes the red is hard to cover. But there you go. You don't even know it was there. It's very easy. Anything that you want to fix, you just wait for it to dry and then you can fix it. When you want to blend, you want your surface and your brush and the colors of the paint that you're blending together to all be dry. But when you want to fix something, you want it to be, back up. When you want to blend, you want everything to be wet. The paint on your brush, the paint on your surface, the paint you're adding to, you want it all to be nice and wet. When you want to fix something, you want it to be dry. And then you can fix anything. Okay? All right, I'm going to go back to my round brush. Washed out the purple. And I'm going to, again, turn it upside down so I'm not putting my arms in anything. I'm going to get a little bit of the black. And I'm just going to start filling in the body of our dragonfly. Okay. When I do the head, I like to put the back of the brush in the paint and come up here and put on a little round head. Again, I'm going to make a little point on my brush, add the little line for the tail, and then the segments. I'm going to push down as I work my way up. I'm going to fill the brush. This one's a little bigger. And again, I'm going to use the back of the brush and put a little circle on for the head. And then I can put my brush back in the water. So, that's what we have so far. I'm going to dry my wings, and we will add the details to our dragonfly, and we will be all set. Okay. All right, now it's time for the liner brush. I like to use this wonky liner brush. I've had it forever. It's got a bend to it. It's really gross. It's seen a lot of years, but I like it. So you want to dip your liner brush in the water, but you do want to dry it off because you want your fibers on your liner brush to not be all like this. Well, you never want your fibers on your brush to be all wonky like this and have bedhead. You always want your fibers on your brush, no matter which brush you're using, to come together. Like that, like this flat brush. So you want your fibers to come together. You're going into, if you need fresh white, you can get fresh white. And again, when you use a liner brush, you want to give it a twirl. You want to have a nice point. I'm just going to add a little bit of white highlight to the body and some of the segments. Okay. Then I'm going to add the details to my wings. And the wings look like leaves and the vines and leaves. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull in a really thin line. You don't want it to be straight. It can have a little curve to it, and it doesn't go to the very end. Okay? Then you're going to get little V's off the side. They don't have to line up. They can stagger. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to pull a little thin line. If you notice, when I try to not be heavy-handed, I will leave my pinky up, floating around. And again, we're going to come in here. We're going to just pull in some little lines. For the veins in our dragonfly leaves. Wings. They look like leaves, but they're wings. Need to get a good, here, we'll go back here. Okay, so I'm going to pull in a nice line. You don't want it totally straight. And you want it as thin as can be. And then I'm just pulling off these little V strokes as if we were adding the veins to our leaves. And now this last one. Give it a wash. And then last but not least, we want to add in our antenna. I'm going to have to do it this way. So I'm going to go back into my black. And I'm going to put a little dot and then pull. I'm going to put a little dot and then a little pull. They don't have to attach. Here you go again. Ready? I'm going to put a little dot out here to the side and then pull a little antenna. I'm going to put another little dot out here to the side and pull another little antenna. And there we go. Turn you guys back around, and there is our blossoms with our really pretty, fun purple dragonflies. So, thank you for joining me. I hope to see you again. I love sharing art from my heart, and if this class brought you a little joy, my job is done. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.